channel. I know it's been a while since I've last uploaded, but I wanted to get out my predictions for the 2024 NBA playoffs. Now, just to kind of preface this, I wouldn't really consider myself an NBA expert. I definitely watch much more college basketball, so I consider myself more of a casual fan, so don't take these picks too seriously, but they're still, I feel like they are still respectable opinions. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we got the Celtics, and my prediction, I think the Heat are going to beat the Bulls tonight in the final playing game, even without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. I think the Heat are going to be able to get it done. So we got the Celtics taking on my predicted 8 seed, the Miami Heat. Um, and this is definitely going to be a different story than it was last postseason, where Miami was the 8 seed, Boston was the 2 seed, and the two met in the conference finals, and the Heat won in 7 games. I definitely don't see that happening this year. Not only is Jimmy Butler possibly not returning for the rest of this season, I know he's supposed to be out a couple weeks, but regardless of that, Boston is just a much better team this year, and I don't think they're going to slip up this early to a team like the Miami Heat without their best player. So I'm tempted to go. I definitely want I think the Celtics are going to win. Um, I think the Celtics are going to get the sweep here. I don't even think Miami is going to be able to get a game off of them, but if they did, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to go Celtics with the sweep. Then we got Cleveland taking on the Orlando Magic. This is probably the least talked about first round matchup that I've heard about through like the talk shows and social media and stuff like that. But it seems like an interesting matchup. Cleveland's put together a sneaky good season. I know they were in the playoffs last year, lost to the Knicks, I believe. And then Orlando Magic, they're another one of those teams that's put together a quietly good season. They got some young talent. They got the Wagner brothers, who, as a Michigan fan, I'm a big fan of them. So it would really bring me a lot of joy to see the Orlando Magic win, but I think Cleveland is going to get this one in 6 games. Then we got the Knicks and the Sixers, and this is where it gets interesting because I feel like the trendy pick is going to go 76ers here for the upset. And it's a tempting pick because to me, it feels like the New York Knicks sometimes rely too much on Jalen Brunson. And I know they have a lot of good playmakers outside of him, like OG, Josh Hart, those guys. But I feel like sometimes they rely on Jalen Brunson too much. And the 76ers, obviously, they have Joel Embiid, who's starting to come back from that injury. But the 76ers are a really complete team, I feel like, when they're healthy. When they got Maxey going, they got Tobias Harris. Nick Batum had a great game in the playing game against Miami. So I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I think the Sixers win. However, I do think it is going to get pushed to 7 games. I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks win, but I'm going to go with the Sixers here in 7. Then we got the Bucks, the banged up Bucks, taking on the Indiana Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. I think this is another trendy pick. A lot of people are going to go Pacers here, but to me, it's almost impossible to pick against the Bucks. They have had way too much playoff success in the past 5 years or so. Now I know they've lost first round. I know they lost first round last year, but if you put that aside, they've had a considerable amount of playoff success. And look, it's really going to be dependent on if Giannis is able to get back for this series. I think if Giannis can play some of this series, the Bucks. I think if Giannis plays, the Bucks could sweep this. To be honest with you, I think if he doesn't play, it's going to be a real dogfight. Um, and I think it's just a time for the playmakers on Milwaukee, like Damian Lillard and Chris Middleton, to really show up. And I think they're actually going to do that. So I think the Bucks are going to win in 6. Then we got the Thunder and the Kings. I predicted the Kings to beat the Pelicans in this play-in game tonight because I think the Pelicans are going to have a hard time without Zion. But regardless, I think the Thunder will beat the winner of that play-in game, and I got them in 5 games, winning that series. Then we got my favorite matchup of the first round, the Clippers and the Mavericks. This one really stinks for me because I really like both of these teams. I think they're both super talented and likable, and it really sucks that they have to play first round, but it's going to be a great series. So the Clippers, obviously, they've got the veterans, Paul George, Kawhi, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. They're probably the team that I would most want to win the entire tournament because it'd be great to see guys like Paul George, Harden and Westbrook finally get a ring after all their hard work throughout the years. But the Mavericks, they're a pretty good team, and Luka Doncic has been one of the best players all season. Kyrie Irving, of course, is right up there with Doncic as the best players on that team. So this is really just a toss up for me. It's definitely going to go 7 games. I could see it going either way, but I am going to go Los Angeles Clippers in 7 games. Then we got Denver taking on LA. This is definitely not going to be a sweep. I think the Lakers are going to put up much better of a fight than they did last year in the Western Conference Finals, partly because they're going to be rested after winning the playing game. They're more healthy, and they haven't gone already through 2 series like they had last year, 2 hard-fought series. So I do think Denver is going to win this one, but I'm going Denver in 6 because I think the Lakers are going to push this, make it very competitive, and ultimately just come up short to the defending champs in the end. Minnesota and uh, Phoenix Suns. This is another interesting matchup because I feel like both teams have a lot to prove. Minnesota, they've been at the top for a couple of years now. Or I shouldn't say at the top, they've been having success for a couple of years, but really haven't done much in the playoffs. They have the core to do it with Ant and Cat. Um, so they really have a great team. And then obviously Phoenix Suns, there's a lot of pressure on them because you spend all this money in the offseason to get Bradley Beal. Then they barely play the big three, that is, with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. They barely play throughout the regular season, show a lot of inconsistency from this team. But I think that if they're clicking on all cylinders and healthy, they are going to be really hard to stop. And so for that reason, I think the Suns get the win in 6 games. Moving back up to round two, the Eastern Conference semis, Boston and Cleveland. I think Cleveland had a great run getting that first round series win, but I think Boston is just too much for them. Jason Tatum, I just don't really see Boston losing a series to Cleveland. I think Cleveland can put up a good fight, but I just think Boston's got this one in the bag. Give me Boston in 5. Then Philadelphia and Milwaukee. I feel like by this time, Giannis will likely be back playing for Milwaukee. And 76ers, they're going to have a lot of momentum coming off that series win versus the Knicks. But I think if Milwaukee's healthy, they will be able to get the series win against the 76ers. So I'm going to go with the Bucks in 6. Then the Thunder and the Clippers. This is where things get interesting because you've got the super young Thunder squad versus the super old, I should say, super veteran squad with the LA Clippers. And this is really just going to be kind of a passing of the torch moment if the Thunder win, in my opinion, because it shows that the young guys are finally starting to take care of the old guys. But it's going to be a really competitive series. Both teams are going to be playing great. And ultimately, I do think the playoff experience is going to come through for the Clippers. And I got them pulling off the upset against the Thunder, winning this one in 6 games. Then we got Denver Nuggets versus the Phoenix Suns, a rematch of last year's Western Conference semis, which the Nuggets won in 6 games, I believe. Yeah, 6. And honestly, I feel like this year is going to be similar. I know I talked about the big three and how when they're firing on all cylinders, they're really hard to stop, and that's true. But we're talking about the defending champs that they're playing, the Denver Nuggets, and they've just been absurdly consistent throughout the entire year, clearly showing that they have what it takes to go back to back. They got the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic. And so I think the Nuggets are going to handle the Suns again in the postseason, win this one in 6. Then for conference finals, we got the Celtics versus the Bucks and the Clippers versus the Nuggets. Celtics versus Bucks, this could be a really, really great series. And we see these two play multiple times, or actually, I don't even know if we have seen them play in the postseason before. It feels like we have because they've been so consistent, but I'll have to check my facts on that one. I'm not sure if they've played recently in the postseason, but regardless, it's going to be a really great matchup if they both make it here. And I think Boston is really just they're. I feel like this year they're not going to lose before the finals, and it's hard for me to say that because I feel like Boston has been inconsistent at times, they've kind of made themselves hard to trust in the playoffs, especially when it gets into these later rounds. But we can't ignore the fact that this team has been the best team all season long, and their backcourt with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is probably the best in the country. So I am going to go with Boston here to make it to the NBA Finals, and I have them winning this series in 6 games. Then the Clippers and the Nuggets. Unfortunately, I think this is where the Clippers' incredible run comes to an end after knocking off the Mavericks and the Thunder. I just think the defending champs are going to be able to handle this veteran offense from the Clippers. It's just so hard because I don't know who the Clippers have that can guard Jokic. And I guess you could use that reasoning for a lot of teams, but I feel like specifically here, it's going to be hard for the Clippers to stop Denver so much on defense. And I think that could wear the Clippers out, make them shoot a little bit more poorly offensively. But I think this will be a competitive series, don't get me wrong, but I have the Nuggets going back to the finals, winning this one in 6 games. Then the finals that I feel like most people anticipated at the start of the season. This is probably the most popular finals pick in these playoffs because I feel like these are the two best teams out there. And this is shaping up to be an incredible finals if it does come down to that. And it's 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 interesting because my reasoning that I used for the Nuggets to beat the Clippers, you could also use for the Nuggets to beat the Celtics, and that Jokic is just so hard to guard, this and that. But I feel like Boston, I feel like it's almost their time to win a championship. And I know that's not really great reasoning for picking them, but it does seem like they've been so close in the past. And you look around, you see all these other teams that have won their chips, the Bucks have won, the Nuggets have won. Obviously, the Warriors have won. The Raptors got a ring back in 2019. It feels like a lot of those teams that were always super close ended up getting their rings. And so I think it's time for Boston to get this ring, and Jason Tatum is going to be the guy to do it. He's their franchise player. He's a star, superstar in the making, and I think the Boston Celtics are going to get the win in the series. I think it'll go to 7 games. It'll be a thrilling series, but I got the Celtics winning the NBA Finals of 2024. All right, guys, let me know what you thought about your picks. Drop any comments down below if you agree or disagree. Yeah, and leave a like and feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll see you guys in the next video.